Hey guys, what's going on? This is Andrew here today, and we are going to be showing some Sega CD games and a Sega Saturn game that I got from Game On today. So, I was at a doctor's appointment. I figured since I was right around the corner, I might as well stop by and see what games they have for the Sega CD, because, well, I just got mine last week. I have about 3 games for it, and the only one that I actually like on it is Echo the Dolphin, because I believe I have Jurassic Park, which was just one of the worst games you can get in the CD, and then I believe I had a hockey game for it as well, one of the NHL games. So I figured it was time to maybe get a few more Sega CD games, just because I felt like not only expanding on the collection, but expanding on what I can play on the thing, since, like I said, I didn't really have much great games for it. One day I would like to have a full Sega CD collection. I know there's not that big of a library, so somewhere down the line I probably will end up getting the full collection, but yeah, I figured now would be a good time to start doing that. While I was there, though, I also did pick up a Sega Saturn game. That one was a bit pricey. I ended up getting a decent amount of games today. I was only planning to get 1 or 2, but I ended up coming out with 5, including the Sega Saturn game as well. So, without further ado, guys, let's get into showing what I got. Alright, guys, so I've mentioned this in a few of my pickups videos in the past. I might as well bring it up again. The one that I'm going to be showing off first is a sports game called Bill Walsh College Football. And now onto the thing that I've mentioned in all my other videos. Essentially, I've never really been into the modern sports games. I don't know what it is, but they all pretty much feel the same to me, so I never felt like picking up any of the newer ones. The last Madden game I played was way back in probably the original Xbox days. As for NBA, my most recent one was 2K17, and where that was some time ago, I'd say that it still doesn't play that much differently compared to some of the newer ones as they are today. I know there are some differences, but honestly, most of the sports games these days blend in year by year, so I don't even bother going and getting them every year anymore. I'm pretty much into the older ones, because a lot of times you do see major improvements between the games, and sometimes there's even some features in there that you're not going to be seeing in the newer ones. These ones always seem to be a lot more fun to me. I've always been into the sports retro games. NBA Jam's one of my favorite games on the Genesis, and honestly, like I said, the newer games blend in too much, and I feel like there's no reason for me to play them anymore. So when it comes to sports games, I always like playing them on the retro consoles. Since this one was only $8 at Game On, I figured this would be one of them that I would get. It looks pretty cool. Haven't actually looked at this game at all to see how they would play. I'm not like majorly into the football games, mainly because I don't have as much of an understanding of football as I do like soccer, baseball, basketball, but I would like to give this one a shot, see how football would have been played on an older console like the Sega CD. I know I had Tecmo Bowl on the NES, but would definitely like to see how it was during the 16-bit era, so I picked this one up specifically. One other thing that I actually forgot to mention is that I got every single Sega CD game that was on the shelf at Game On today. Essentially, I pretty much got all the ones that had the original cases for them, not like the plastic or reproduction cases in that regard. I saw that all of them together would have at least been around $100, so I didn't want to go crazy and buy everything if it was too expensive. So I pretty much just stuck with whatever I saw that was there in the original case, and so, a lot of the things on here would be impulse buys, including the one that I got here, which is called Double Switch. Never looked into this game, never ended up even like doing any research on it, so I have no clue what it's going to be like. Even looking at the back cover, honestly, I wouldn't even be able to tell you what this game is about. I would like to maybe give it a shot eventually, and I am going to give it a shot eventually, but like I said before, I have no idea what to expect from this game whatsoever, and that pretty much goes for most of this list as well, including Ground Zero Texas, which is another game that I got in the haul as well. So this one looks, I guess, kind of like a military game. If anything, I could be completely wrong about that. It does at least look action-packed, so it also looks like it's doing some cutscenes using the Sega CD technology to do those cutscenes. I know on the Sega CD, this was one of the big things about it, how you can have like live-action cutscenes on there. You don't really see that in modern games. This is just a gimmick from the Sega CD. Hell, the Sega CD in and of itself is really a gimmick when you consider what it was trying to push, but honestly, I think it's going to look pretty cool. I did have a guy at the retro game store, one of the customers, tell me that he enjoyed this one, so I figured I might as well just pick it up. Like I said, I got pretty much everything that was on the shelf at the place just completely out of impulse. So I got this one for 15 bucks or $14.99, whatever you want to call it. And this one also has a little bit of a cracked casing as well. Not a big deal as long as I have the game in my collection. So the very last Sega CD game that I got was called Prize Fighter. Unfortunately, there was no front cover for it, but I do have the side and the back cover to it. This looks to me like just another boxing game, in my opinion. I mean, like I said, I didn't even bother looking into the games. I got pretty much everything here in this pile solely out of just wanting to get whatever was on the shelf and expand on my collection. So I really, like I said, I don't really know much about the Sega CD. Don't know many of the games in the library. There's like a few select ones I know that are like Night Trap and Sonic CD, but never really looked into all the other games in there. So like I said, a majority of these did end up being impulse buys, and essentially that's everything that was on their shelf for the Sega CD. So without further ado, let's look into the last game, which happens to be a Sega Saturn game. So as I mentioned before, the last game that I'm going to be showing off is a Sega Saturn game. This one I only got because I actually have a sealed version of it on PC at the moment, and I really wanted to get into the game because I've heard a few PC gamers that have talked to me say that it was pretty good. That game happens to be Myst. So while I was there, I was really only planning on getting Sega CD games. I wasn't planning on getting any other games for any other consoles because, one, I was trying to avoid spending all my money, and two, I pretty much was just trying to expand my collection for the CD since I just got the console and have plenty of other games on the other platforms that I got for consoles. So if you guys saw my most recent video where I showcased like my biggest pickups haul ever, I ended up getting a PSP, a PS3 backwards compatible, a Switch OLED, and the Sega CD. The thing with those other consoles were that I already had almost 100 games on the PS3, and including all the backwards compatible titles, I had almost 200 games altogether to play on the PS3. With the PSP, I got it in a bundle with like 14 different games, and with the Switch, I already had the library of a ton of Switch games because I had the V1 and the Switch Lite previously to having the OLED. So I was pretty much stacked with those consoles. I figured now, since out of the four consoles, the Sega CD I had the least of, I figured I would jump on and pretty much just buy more games for the CD, and that's really all I was planning on doing. But I ended up seeing this game there, and like I said, since I had people tell me that they really enjoyed this one, especially the PC gamers, I figured it would be interesting to get the console port of it, since I actually don't own any games on the Sega Saturn. The thing is, I've had the console for over 2 years now. I got it right when the pandemic hit. Essentially, I modded the game console with the Action Replay that you can get, and essentially I installed pseudo Saturn on it on the Action Replay doing the swap disk trick, which basically makes it to where you can just play backup games on the thing. So I downloaded a ton of ROMs. I know I pirated, but I downloaded a ton of ROMs and basically burnt them all into CDs to play the games on the Saturn, since the games are just so expensive. So I never actually ended up buying a Saturn game. This is the first Saturn game I've ever gotten, other than the bootleg preview disc, I think it's called. It's that one that has like a ton of the game previews on it or whatever. But this is realistically the first Sega Saturn title that I've ever owned, and I've had the console for over 2 years now. So it was about time I got something, and considering it was a game that a lot of people told me that they enjoyed on the PC side of things, I figured it would be a perfect time for me to just go and get it there. So I don't know anything about Myst. Like I said, I have it sealed on PC and haven't given it a shot elsewhere. So now that I have the console version of it, I feel like this was honestly just the way to go, including since this would be my first Sega Saturn game in my collection. So at that point, guys, that is everything that I got in this haul. It was a pretty small haul, and I went through it pretty fast considering there wasn't really much to talk about since most of these games were impulse buys, but I was pretty happy to get all of this into my collection. I've been wanting to expand on the Sega CD. I've been wanting the Sega CD for a long time in general, and now that I have it, might as well take advantage of the fact that I'm having it. And now that I got another, Saturn game, I think this might just open up me to possibly getting more Saturn games in the future. I would like to collect for it more. If it wasn't so expensive, I'd have a lot more games for it because I love the Saturn. I actually like it better than the original PlayStation. Believe it or not, I'm one of those. But yeah, at that point, I'm pretty much at the end of this video, so I want to thank you guys for watching. I've been procrastinating making more videos. Whenever I have some downtime to just chill and make some more, I'm going to try to get a few reviews out, and I'm definitely going to get to that setup video soon. So thank you guys for watching once again. I'll see you all in the next one.